For a century and a half, this unusual business, nestled in the heart of Baltimore, has housed tens of thousands of costumes that have cloaked renowned actors, soaring sopranos, wily politicians, even U.S. presidents. It's a magical place where an idea becomes an inspiration becomes a sketch, and magic happens before your eyes.
Welcome to A.T. Jones, the oldest costumer in America. This is a special edition of Chesapeake Collectibles. A.T. Jones has been manufacturing these dreams and transporting clients to other historical periods for 150 years. It's the oldest costume shop in America, opening just 3 years after the Civil War. There have been just 4 owners: A.T. Jones himself, his son, Walter Sr., his grandson, Walter Jr., and now George Goebel, who's worked in the business for nearly 70 years. And son Rick is now picking up the mantle.
A.T. Jones himself was from North Carolina, and he was an artist. Now, he was a painter that painted realistically. And in 1861, he won a prize from the Maryland Institute. It was called the Maryland Institute at that time. And the Sun papers funded a $500 prize, which was an enormous amount of money. He came up to get his prize, and that was in 1861, and the Civil War caught him north. So he couldn't go back down to his home. He did some work for the Maryland Institute. He worked for them for a while, and then he started a business making what he called regalia and paraphernalia. And that was banners and flags and things like that. He was not in the costume business at that time. And actually, he made flags for the Army of Northern Virginia. And the ladies at that time would hide them. These were the sympathizers for the South, would hide them under their skirts and take them back into Virginia. Then later on, he decided that he liked clothing. He liked all sorts of clothing. There were huge galas in France. And all these people, the wealthy people from here, would go over to France, buy these magnificent costumes, bring them back, hang them in their closet, and that was the end of them, as far as they were concerned, but not to the old boy. He went, scoured through, found them, he would buy them, and that's the way he started in the costume business. The Joneses were friends with the Booths. Very close friends.
The Booths.
The Booths.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of President Abraham Lincoln, lived with his 2 actor brothers, Edward and Junius, just outside of Baltimore. After the assassination and John Wilkes' death, Edward went into seclusion for 10 months. When he hesitantly returned to the stage the next year, audiences welcomed him back and did not blame him for his brother's atrocity. Years later, Walter Jones Sr. shared a boyhood memory about Edwin Booth with a young George Goebel.
When he went to the Booths to deliver makeup, Booth said to him, "Boy, what are you going to do for a living? What do you want to do when you grow up?" He said, "I want to be a costumer, just like my dad." And he said, "Good, don't ever get into this business." We have a letter from him. And he also has a gabardine, burgundy gabardine coat that was worn by Booth. And we have that in the front case there. And actually, at one point, A.T. got a hold of one of Booth's swords that he used, and he nailed it into the wall never to be moved from there, you know. And when the fire broke out, the Great Baltimore Fire of 1904, to save the costumes, Jones, A.T. Jones, hired a teamster, put his costumes on the wagon. Another fellow came by and said, I'll double the price that he's paying you. They dumped A.T. Jones's costumes in the street, and away they went.
Did you just love it from the very beginning, George?
I really loved it. I mean, I'm down in the basement, you know, painting spears, you know.
Little has changed at A.T. Jones in 150 years. There's not a computer on the premises, and nothing is cataloged, which begs the question.
George, how do you find things here?
Well, I don't.
Okay, you don't, but somebody does.
Mary and Rick, you know, they all know where everything is. Everything.
Just know.
Both buildings, 704 and 708.
That's positively amazing.
We're definitely the oldest costumer in America. I think we're the end of an era, you know, the big costume houses. I mean, it's just different nowadays, you know. In the old days, there were a lot of big costume houses, and they're all pretty well going or gone by now. I think we have 3 generations of Joneses, and I think there's going to be two generations of Goebels, and I think that's going to be it.